right, here we are on site where we're doing our installation. And as with most of the projects that I pursue, I have to be flexible and able to adapt to unforeseen circumstances or the odd situation where my optimism might need to be augmented by a little bit of reality. So I have taken the downspout out and I've put the box beam with the front face off of it into place. I've leveled it up, and it's really helpful to have long shims to be able to do your leveling and a good sturdy framing hammer to be able to tap things around. So I've got this guy leveled up pretty well. It's sitting inside of the space nicely. I've got about everything that I think I'm going to need, but odds are I'll be running back in the studio to grab a few more things. But I've got my cordless hammer drill, I've got a driver, I've got clamps just in case, and my backup plan, which is to use galvanized L brackets to make my attachment. And so it's not as elegant as my original proposal to go through the body, but I'm just so close to the edge of the building with this that it makes me nervous, because if somebody did hit this on the corner, because it's so close to that edge, it could just break out. And so, less elegant, but a better solution in terms of being sensitive to the structural needs that I have here. So, my next thing to do, now that I've got it leveled up, is going to be to mount my first bracket. First, I'm going to mount it onto the wall, and then I'm going to tie it into my 2x6s around the perimeter. Okay, we're back to the side that I started on. I had set my top bracket on the south side, and then I went around to the north side and set my bracket on the north side. And now I'm back to start to work my way down the length of this, installing those L brackets as I go. So I'm using a combination drill driver hammer drill. And your better quality hammer drills are also going to have this auxiliary handle that locks off the side of it. It can be adjusted to a wide range of positions. This is really useful for getting the leverage you need to be able to drop these anchors in. So let's line up, drill a hole, and then drive some anchors. So I've marked my position, and I'm looking for somewhere around that position that's a really good flush mount to that mortar. So I really don't like how uneven that surface is. It would be okay, but I'm looking for something better than that. So what I might do is I might go up a little bit and see if I can't get a better fit up there, or down a little bit until I find a position where it looks like it's lining up with my, giving me approximately equal divisions, but at the same time being sensitive to the fact that I want to make sure that it's, that's a better flush mount. It's not going to win a beauty contest, but again, when you look at this, look how high that sits off the surface. I don't like that at all, right? And I could go down a little bit lower, and in reality, I could come back in and probably grind some of this down. Or if I want to be a hillbilly about it, I could even come in and I could take my claw hammer, because again, remember, this is a combination of mortar. Yeah, this mortar is a combination of sand and Portland cement, so it's relatively soft. So let's take that guy and just draw it across there a few times and see if we can't smooth that out just a little bit and make for a prettier landing. Don't do that with your dad's hammer, which is fine to do it with your own. So look at that, that's much better. It's giving me a much better alignment with the center of my mortar line. It's sitting more flush. So I'm going to take my Tapcon installation set. I've got my driver on the end. I'm going to pull that sheath off to expose the masonry bit. Line up with my bracket again. Come in with my clamp. Grab onto that bracket so that I'm as hands-free as possible. Let's see if I'm able to fit in over the top of that with my cordless hammer drill. I want to make sure and set it to the hammer function so I'm getting both that drilling and that percussive action that helps me advance through that material. Now I'll over the bit with my driver, take my fastener, set it back to drive. ¿Qué pasó, Freddy?
Necesito un carpintero.
Sí, no.
Para que lo busque.
Yeah.
Ahí va, está quedando nice.
Okay, gracias.
Protection.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Hay que chequear que Eduardo no lo lleve.
Gracias, Freddy. If your screw bottoms out like that and doesn't go flush, don't try to keep driving it. Back it out instead. And then clear that hole just one more time. In general, I don't recommend doing this, but if you have a Tapcon that is not driving in, you might end up shearing the head of it off or getting it jammed up in there. So now you can see that draws up nice and flush. All right, you don't need to watch me set the next two, but know that I'm going to go ahead and now come up, attach, set these, attach, set, and work my way all the way down the line. Okay, that really pulled up nicely. And, you know, although Tapcons is kind of an expensive screw to be using for wood screws, and it's not, you know, it doesn't have the best grab, I really wanted the visual consistency of those screws. So, you know, that's just me. To make sure that I didn't drill in too far with my pilot hole here, I went ahead and set my drill bit in the chuck while I was holding it up alongside of the width of that to make of my board, to make sure that I set the bit in so it wasn't projecting out so far. So I knew that when I came up against the mouth of that chuck, that was the perfect depth. Every once in a while you catch a lucky break where you have just enough room to sneak in there. And better quality drills have a lower profile so they can fit into tighter spaces, like being able to get up against this corner when I was drilling into the masonry. And now it's going to give me an advantage when I'm driving these screws into this tight space from the side. If I was unable to make that fit, then I would most likely go about using a right angle drill. Okay, now I can knock out the support structure that's underneath this guy, and this is where shims really makes all the difference in the world. If I had that load just resting down on that piece of 2x10, I might have a hard time working it out of there because the load is resting on it. But because I use shims to finalize the leveling of it, it should be pretty easy to just come back in and pull those shims out of there and then get my board out. And there we have it. Your materials may well come out of alignment between when you drill your holes and when you do your installation. And in part, that's why I had this clamped up while it rested in the studio, but it still moved a little bit. So this is where something like a quick clamp really comes in handy to just be able to pull things into position. Whenever you're working on a project like home improvement, or it might be your own practice as an artist, you may often find that technical challenges present themselves that require you to make some changes to your design. And whenever I'm faced with a situation like that, I try to take that defect and turn it into a detail. So my solution to the problem was that I didn't have quite as much room to accommodate that downspout as I had anticipated. And part of it had to do with the fit up. So what I did is I went ahead and I used some conduit connectors as spacers so that I could get my front face standing off the surface, allowing a little extra room around the downpipe so it wasn't compressed, and also to keep debris from accumulating inside of it, because it makes it much easier to clean out leaves or whatever else might get caught in between that downspout and the box beam that surrounds it. Let's just pull in for a quick look at that detail. These conduit connectors actually made for a handsome detail that gives a little more room for that downspout and makes it a little easier to get in there and clean out any debris that accumulates in there, like I showed you. And you know, I have to say that I kind of like the rhythm of those things and the way that they look with each other. So I'm going to call it good job done. And until our next project, be happy, be healthy, and be kind.